This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
And we're back with Off the Break Podcast. I'm Cody. With me are Kyle and Eric.
As always.
Hello. As always.
Hello.
My team is here, and we are so prepared today.
Yeah. I say we're pretty on top of it as of now.
We printed some materials.
We have our notes.
We have our notes. We're good.
It's all in here.
In the brain.
In the
That's where
noggin.
he is pointing.
My big brain.
Yeah. So we saw some films this last week and we got to talk about. Lighthouse.
One good one and one
other
one.
And Terminator.
And Terminator.
You can guess which one was which in that.
Yeah. Which one are we talking about between the good one and Terminator?
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
Yeah. We got some trailers and we want to put our 2 cents in on that Scorsese essay.
This can
is like his...
finally be the final Scorsese talk?
Scorsese will never back down.
This
This is like him quintupling down.
This
At least he's doing that. Like, I'm proud of him for that.
I love it. Dying on.
Yeah,
apparently because he wrote to the New York Times about what he's been trying to say these last 2 weeks.
I'll die right there beside him.
I was telling Eric this earlier. I imagine that he was writing this angrily.
Oh yeah,
because thinking like he actually has to write an essay explaining his viewpoint on Marvel movies is just
still aren't understanding what I'm trying to say. I'll just write a freaking essay.
Do you think that, given his age, he was just using his pointer fingers
I
and punching the
guarantee
keyboard?
Oh, of course.
He's probably like pacing back and forth, like with this like thick New York accent, like having somebody else type it up for him,
like smoking a cigarette, having his drink, being like, ah.
I see him more as a cigar man than a cigarette man.
I can see that.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll talk about that article they wrote about in the New York Times. It was a pretty good one.
Pipe.
Good, bad.
We have our
thoughts. Throw our thoughts on it,
and then we'll rate it out of 10.
Bonfire. We're adding to it.
Watch out, Scorsese.
Cool. I guess let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
Let's start with Terminator, which I haven't seen, but Kyle took one for the team.
He did.
You're welcome.
Which is unfortunate because even I was kind of excited given the promotions for this, the idea of the half humid.
I was kind of going back and forth for a
hybrid.
while. When it was first announced, I was like, this isn't going to work. They keep saying, Sarah Connor's back. That's the key. And I just wasn't buying it. But then the second trailer, I was like, it's kind of cool. And then it came out, and then I heard about kind of some of the stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And now I just don't really want to see it.
Nope.
So what happens, Kyle?
How is it?
Like you guys, I was slightly optimistic. We've been burned a lot of times with this franchise, but there were signs that made it feel like this could be the one. After watching it, I feel like it was not the one, but it just proves the point that this franchise is dead, and we need to just let it be dead.
It is so dead.
Much longer than we've already been keeping dead.
They're trying to keep it alive because Arnold Schwarzenegger is still alive? And they're like, look, we can get the original guy back.
For the 3rd time.
The 4th or 5th time.
I don't know, but
I think
the more I think about
it's a property that they want money for.
That's the first movie. The first one is in like my top 10. I love it to death. The second one is it's like the perfect action movie. But this might be like the worst overall franchise to me. Like just where it started and what it became. It's like kind of funny to kind of crap on the X-Men movies because a lot of those are pretty poor. Oh. And there's a lot of them. But this, there's 6 of these things and 2 of them are good. And I don't know. It's just from where it was and what it is now. It makes me really, really sad.
Yeah. If you're like Eric and you're about to go see Terminator Dark Fate, I suggest to stick with the first 2 and don't worry about Dark Fate, because the 5 minutes alone, without giving anything away, or maybe you've already heard, I don't know, but I feel like the majority of Terminator fans will be like, oh, we're just gonna forget everything before. Oh,
just doing that.
Okay.
We're just gonna kill John Connor.
Well, we're
gonna kill him in the first 5 minutes.
All right,
literally in the first 5 minutes.
All right, now we're in spoilers. Here we go.
As a child,
it's probably because it's
14-year-old John Connor.
They use like digital technology. Don't they just recreate Eddie Furlong from
what
it looks like in the second
lightly, and then Cody just came stumbling
Nobody
in.
Cares. Nobody cares.
They killed him.
With like a drunk man
Nobody
stumbling
cares.
into a bar. Anyway, that happens in the first 5 minutes, and it's fine. Like if you are saying like forget what the past, it isn't what it used to be.
Is it a popcorn dropping moment?
No. Well, it'll be a popcorn dropping moment for fans of the first two Terminators because they'll be angry.
Because they'll be like,
It
come
will-
on.
But at least they do
Yeah.
it for a good reason, right?
There's no good reason because we still end up with the same plots as the first two movies.
It's the exact same thing.
It's just cutting and pasting elements of the first two movies and they threw it into this new movie. At least it's not. I haven't seen like any of the crappy Terminator movies at all because they are just so bad sounding that I don't want to watch them at all and like ruin what I know of the first two movies. But I would say that
because this is supposedly the third one.
it's supposedly like the best one since Terminator 2, and yeah, but that's not saying much. And after seeing this movie, it definitely is the case that it's not saying much. It's definitely steps above what has happened in the past with these newer entries, but it's nowhere near the first two movies, and it just makes me realize that it should be time to put it to rest. Like, however long, well, hopefully longer than how they've been doing the past couple of years, but put it to rest for a good long while, because
Well, I mean, I
just think there's just no outmatching the first
this
two,
was
and there's
supposed to be
no
like
way to
their,
continue this story.
you know, Hail Mary. Let's take a step back, really focus, pool our resources, bring James Cameron back, and make a really good one, and that'll revive this franchise. But that didn't really happen, and the movie didn't really do all that great.
Would it have done better if the Danny character was going to be John Connor's future wife or something like connected, like his lieutenant that
I
picks
don't
it up
know.
in
I
his-
mean,
I don't think that matters at all. I honestly think like a large chunk of why it wasn't good is because, well, it's not successful right now because people have been burned too many times. But I don't think it matters like how you make these characters be different. What will make it better is just making the overall story new or exciting or different. But
Or-
it never feels like any of those things here.
or not
yeah, all
killing
I really,
kids.
as much as I've read about this movie and heard from Kyle, it really does seem like it's, I don't know, it just kind of wipes the first two movies like just away, like that never happened, so that they can. It's like a sequel, but it's kind of like a reboot, so that they can have this new, you know, special person. I don't know. Well,
Well,
I mean, that's
it's-
kind of what happens, right? You get rid of
Yeah,
John
it's-
Connor, and then Skynet apparently never happens, but this new thing, Legion, comes about, and it's exactly Skynet.
Yeah.
And it does the exact same thing that Skynet does.
Yeah, I understand wiping the slate clean with the past three movies. That's fine. That makes sense. But they really just... It really does feel like as though it's just taking stuff from the first two Terminators, trying to have people forget about it, and that just being a starting point when
Well, narratively, it kind of...
that's not what should happen. Like, you should
Yeah.
continue
It just...
off of those first two that were great and then try to start something brand new that way while still staying true to the original two.
It
And
like
that's just not the
retroactively
case.
makes the first two movies just really long pit stops or kind of just like detours.
It just
Because like
make-
everything that happens in those first two movies doesn't really matter.
It feels like a slap to the face, really.
And I don't know. I'm not like a diehard Terminator franchise fan.
Nor am I.
But
I still
like I said,
understand how important those two movies are.
I don't know. It was just that was just seems like a baffling choice to me. Like
I think they were supposed to be like, it's a risky choice, but one with
Yeah.
lots of payoff. And it's like, there's no payoff.
Do you think that they were thinking it was a risky choice? Because
Oh,
to me,
absolutely.
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to me it
it's-
sounds like that they went a safe route. They're like, okay, we want to remake the first one. We don't want to get too creative here, so we're just going to use the same
Tim
beats.
Miller had an interview about why they decided to kill John Connor.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how basically what his argument boiled down to was John Connor wouldn't have anything to do, you know, in the movie, so they just had to kill him off.
That's not true at all.
Tim
You
Miller
brought
was like,
back Tim,
well,
you brought
Tim
back
Miller's
Linda
like, so
Hamilton.
what kind
Yeah.
of a person would John Connor be after he saves Skynet? He's probably like some middle-aged white-collar office worker. He doesn't really have anything else going on. He already did his great thing. And
Now that
he's
would be
just
funny.
Now he's just fading. Now he's just getting old. So why not just like kill him?
I think
What-
that would be
what?
hilarious.
That's
Well,
a ridiculous
What does that say
argument.
about like normal people that we just kill the normal people
Yeah.
off?
I mean, it's like you don't think maybe John Connor, after he, you know, saved Skynet, you don't think that, he would maybe go around helping other people in a different way, or
maybe
like
go into the military.
some kind of Peace Corps type thing. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that John Connor's obviously, he has the heart of a hero. He's kind of a,
Let's be honest. The way he was raised and the trauma he had, he'd be like a militarized hermit in the woods. Be like, nothing's getting to me. I'm off grid. I live in a shipping container
think
buried in underground.
They would Halloween it.
I don't like being super
Yeah.
super cynical, but I do kind of feel like Dark Fate just wanted to reboot the franchise with a new character for some reason, and they just didn't care to kill John Connor, because in their mind this was going to be the start of a new trilogy. They wanted this new girl, what's her name, Dani,
Yeah.
to be like
sure.
the new chosen one, and they wanted to use the same story and beats of Terminator 2, but they wanted new people.
Right. So
And-
really,
and
I don't know
that's-
why they
And
thought they
that's
needed
what
new
it felt
people.
like.
I feel like they wanted diversity and they wanted to put more
That's
ladies in it.
I usually
I
hate
hate
arguments
that.
like that
Yeah.
because it's such a low hanging fruit argument that so many toxic fan bases make.
But I feel like that in
But
this case, it's legitimate.
I kind of feel like that's what's going on here.
It probably was the point they were trying to make. It was fine with me. Like, I was all for it. Like, I didn't mind having these characters be brought in. It's just the story was cut and paste.
Well, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
how
You made the same movie,
how
just with-
obnoxious and out of nowhere and kind of bad the John Connor twist is. It's like I don't have any. I love Mackenzie Davis. We've
It would
we've
be
praised
like
her
the-
before
she was
on
the
this
bright
podcast.
Yeah, she was the bright spot of this movie. Same with Linda Hamilton.
I
and
have no
Arnold.
problem with them doing the whole save Force Awakens passing of the
Right.
torch type thing.
If you do it
But-
well, like where you pay tribute to what was done before, but at the same time making it feel as fresh and new as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas with Dark Fate, neither of that happens. It doesn't feel fresh and new, and you're not paying tribute to the first two.
It'd be
Like
like
I
if
said
Force-
earlier, you slapped us in the face.
It'd be like if
for
Force
killing
Awakens,
John
like when
Connor.
Force Awakens starts, and like in the first 5 minutes, like Luke gets shot by like a stormtrooper or something.
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry, say that again.
That
Like,
would
that
be-
would be like that. Like what? Imagine if Force Awakens, Luke got shot by a
like in
random,
the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
first 5 minutes, he doesn't do anything, but all of a sudden, all of his stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's kind of
I mean-
hard to describe.
I mean, there's the argument to be made with Han Solo, but I'd argue that there was still
Yeah, but Han
enough
Solo
of
had a
an arc.
purpose,
Yeah,
he-
there was purpose.
He was the mentor to rate the new characters. Why couldn't you have John Connor like kind of be the mentor to this new girl, and then maybe he still dies, but he still had a purpose because maybe originally we thought he was the hero,
Right.
And
What
in
if
some
he
ways
actually
he is,
gave
but
a piece of information to
yeah,
the girl?
I mean, give him something to do.
Yeah.
But if you just kill him off,
I don't care what they do with the John Connor character, just make the story good, and they did.
Yeah, and
that's just plain and
the
simple.
John Connor decision makes this story bad to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, I
it's-
feel like such a hypocrite because I haven't seen it, but I really just don't think I need to.
Oh no, I
You
We
know,
kind of
like-
guessed what happened in
I,
it when
I
we were
love
like
telling people to go
talking
see
about
movies regardless, just to support, not to just support theaters, but because it's a great experience. But I personally, honestly think like just stick with 1 and 2 and don't bother.
It just seemed like such a lazy, like artificial jaw-dropping moment, big twist, the big hook. But I feel like they had no real purpose behind that choice. It wasn't a motivated choice.
it. Well, you can't kill anybody that is a teenager or below in the first 20 minutes of a movie or the movie's going to bomb. I swear to gosh, that's what happens.
Well,
This is
I think
Cody's
it's-
rule for life.
it's my
I've been,
rule for life.
I think it's bombing for other reasons than that, but
it is
It's
interesting. I wonder.
indicative of a bomb.
I don't think there's any specific reasons why it's bombing. I think it's just, this is what's been happening
And
with movies
technically
in
it opened
2019.
to like what 30 million. It didn't really bomb. It
No.
just we only consider
that's not the money they want to see.
No, but see, that's not the problem. They made a movie that was a $30 million opening movie. They overspent on it, and that's nobody's
because
fault
in their
from
mind,
the studio.
Yeah,
this is
that's
Terminator. This is the Terminator
Yeah.
comeback. People have been waiting for this.
We need to
They haven't been burned 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
They're just as excited for this one as they would be.
And they spent $100 million to market and
Yeah.
over $100 million to make it, and that was the
It's
movie
the
was
same
never
thing
going
that's
to make
happened
that
so many
money.
times this year with these
Yeah.
big movies. They might have big names or franchises.
If you didn't know how
backing
much
them.
it cost to make, would
Yeah.
you have still considered a bomb? You just sort of like, it was okay, but I probably wouldn't go
Yeah,
back
I mean it's
to
kind of a
it.
slow part of the year. Most movies recently have been kind of opening in that range.
Yep.
You know,
Doctor Sleep is expected to open less than that,
Yeah.
and I would say that's probably arguably a better movie.
but you know,
We'll find out soon.
We'll find out.
it's just a trend this year. You know, a lot of these movies that are supposed to be like kind of like the comeback, redo, reboot thing.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned several. You mentioned Men in Black, Rambo. You know, these types of movies are supposed to be these big comebacks, but people just aren't interested anymore. You know.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right about that. Like it's
never-
showing. I think studios after this year are going to be realizing that too. I think there'll be some changes. I think that it goes back to why a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Sony selling the He-Man franchise to Netflix, because they're realizing let's cut our losses because it's clearly not working. I think they'll find out too with Charlie's Angels. As much as I actually have been enjoying the trailers more than I thought I would, I'm starting to get that sense that that's about to happen.
Yeah,
with that.
I don't know what parallel universe these people who think or who thought Terminator was going to be this big blockbuster event, you know,
to justify the
why
budget.
what about it is making you think that, other than the fact that Terminator used to be a really popular movie like 40 years
name
ago.
brand, man. It just goes back to all the conversations we always talk about here.
I just feel like so many people don't realize that, you know, just because you're a name brand doesn't mean you have a built-in marketing
as much
success.
as it's like the bigger seller these days, at the same time you have to realize the history
I
behind
think it's a cost thing.
these names.
It costs less to develop known intellectual property IP than it does to create new IP. So that's why
it's
they're
less risky, and I mean that
less,
ties into the Scorsese thing we'll get to.
Yeah, that's a whole industry issue that the industry has to deal with, and that, you know, what we're seeing now is a little bit of a backlash, and I think it's coming out more because of the streaming is mining more and more of the low-hanging IP fruit, and now you're getting like these deeper dives, like how much further back can we go, and you get too far back and it just doesn't resonate with modern audiences.
I think people are just losing perspective of, like, you know, some of these things, when you go back to the time that they were the thing, a lot of times they weren't that big of a thing.
At the time,
At the time, they were just kind of, that movie was the number one movie that weekend, and people quote it sometimes still.
Or people just enjoy it as a, you know, through time. Like, I kind of feel like this is what's going to happen with Ghostbusters. Like, they're going to do this reboot. They're going to have this new movie. Ghostbusters are really fun to dress up as.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's happening.
The first movie was really good. The second movie was a little like
it's a little shaky.
Depending on the
and then there was nothing good after that. Even the All Ladies reboot just felt.
That's just what I'm wondering. You know, people think that, you know, every franchise way back in the 80s when this was the thing, they think it's almost
back in time.
It almost seems like they think that was like the Marvel of that time.
Yeah.
It's like, no, nothing has ever been like what Marvel is like right now.
No.
There wasn't like Terminator, you know, lunchboxes lining the stores in 1984. You know, like, yeah, it was
Maybe
big.
in the 90s.
It was big,
when the second
but it
one came
wasn't this cultural behemoth that is, no matter what they do, is going to make $1 billion.
Right. Because
like, that's a Marvel only thing.
Well,
and Star Wars, I guess.
I think I'm Marvel and Star Wars because that's something that Disney has created. I think Disney always had the merchandising behemoth, but never the theatrical clout that it has now. So now it has both theatrical clout and merchandising.
Yeah, it was struggling for a while.
Well, those are just like two, like, I mean, Star Wars are arguably like more so just because it's been around longer, but like those are the two, like, you know, the pinnacles of built-in loyalty fandom
that
type
people
stuff.
are trying to reach for with the Ghostbusters, and
so it
there's
makes
cons
sense with
for like
those.
Ghostbusters and all that type of thing, but it's as compared to everything, as compared to like Star Wars and the Marvels.
I feel like
the
because
world,
things
it's
are
not
so
there.
brand driven now, people are trying to use that lens or mentality on things in the past.
Right.
Like when Ghostbusters came out, people liked it because it was a good movie. They didn't like it because they were Ghostbusters fans.
Right.
You know, those weren't even a thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, people liked the movie.
Once the TV show came out, that changed the game.
I think that also because we go brand driven, the people like seek out the brand, but back then it used to be like actor driven.
Yeah.
And sometimes people would just like the
Or, like,
movie
unique
because an
things.
actor was in it.
Well, and when, like, Star Wars came out, you know, that there weren't, you couldn't just, you know, that was the thing to see. So instead of like streaming a bunch of different shows that you're kind of into, you would just go see Star Wars again.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah. But
because we forget that, you know, if you look at theatrical runs of older films in the 80s and 90s, they would have 16 weeks, 20-week runs because they would just be playing on
Gone
the
with
theater.
the Wind was in theaters for like 4 years.
Yeah, forever. And they would just hold week after week. Maybe would have a matinee show, and everybody would just
That
kind
was
of be
just
like,
the thing to do.
yeah. And stuff would come and go. But now it's so like, you know, flash in the pan. Like you got your 2 weeks and then it's gone, and you got this 2 weeks and then it's gone. That the whole kind of going to the movie behavior has changed, and movies just aren't in the theaters long enough to build up these like audience. And
It's just, it's amazing to me how obvious all of this seems to us.
yeah.
But then, you know, like clockwork, whenever these reimagining things come out, they kind of underperform, or at least, you know, don't do anything special. People are like trying to figure out why.
How could
It's like,
this have happened?
like, why did you think this wasn't gonna happen? It's really interesting.
Well, a wholly original film also you guys saw last week.
From A24.
Which I think cleanses the palate a little bit and gets you back into that cinema experience that everybody
It definitely did.
needs. every
The
once in a while.
Lighthouse is what we're talking about.
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe.
Yep. Black and white, gritty.
Square aspect ratio, shot on 35 millimeter. That film grain,
You could feel it.
beautiful. I just wanted to reach out and feel it like sandpaper.
I wanted to reach out and feel Willem Dafoe's face.
Oh my god, so many pores.
People are like, and I'm checked out.
I've read like several reviews where like they make a specific point about just their faces, you know, and
Yeah.
it's true. Like
No,
there's some of them
it's-
out these guys' faces, and with the lighting and the angles that they use in this movie, it's like these guys are movie stars.
I guess we're starting off right now. Like, there was a moment in the movie that I wasn't even like listening to what they were saying. I was just watching them act and like show their facial expressions and like how they were moving. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Well, so the movie. I guess we should kind of summarize or describe it.
Yeah, let's
So
do
it's
that.
a really artsy psychological type horror movie from A24.
Some
which is
would call
kind
it
of its
true
own
cinema.
Like, it's like its own subgenre at this point. But it's from the director of The Witch, Robert Eggers.
Yes.
And it's a simple story about two dudes, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, who take up a job repairing a lighthouse for a month, and things get a little wacky.
Oh, they're repairing it?
Robert Pattinson is hired on to kind of keep it up, clean out the cisterns, scrub the deck,
Scrub the
you know, all those
floors.
sea talk stuff.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe, you kind of get the idea that he has always done that. I mean, he has a monologue where he talks about that's all he's done. But yeah, it's implied that he hires on Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
But what can I say? What can we say about the movie itself? Like,
It's a trip.
it's definitely a trip. It's just a really good mood piece, you know. If nobody knew anything about it and somehow didn't know who Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe was, and they like walked in on somebody watching it in a room, they would think that they were just like watching TCM movies from like the 40s or something.
Yeah.
Because it just has that total aesthetic, that sound almost too.
I noticed it too.
But for whatever reason, that's just so refreshing. It's like, this is how so many movies were for so long, is like they looked like this. But like Kyle said, if you just step back and you don't even know what's going on, and a lot of people I feel like are gonna like be
Not
like, what
know.
the heck did I just
There's
see?
a lot of sailor sea talk that will get people confused, and there was moments for me too where I was like, "Wait a minute, what would he be trying to
it's-
say?" I had to
because Robert Eggers, same with The Witch, he loves research and like historical accuracy. So like their vernacular, their jargon, their sea talk is pretty accurate to how people would talk.
Mm-hmm.
And at times you're like, I have no idea what they're saying. They're speaking English, but
it's
I don't
not
know
English.
what you just said. But that's okay because you just love the look and feel of the movie, the way they're acting, the way they're standing. I don't know. It's you just like it.
you wouldn't think this about a movie about two dudes in a lighthouse, but there's a lot of mystery to this story. Like it's really subtle details into like what types of people these two men are, because they start out as like strangers to each other, and
Yeah,
like,
they don't even
really
exchange names till like halfway through the movie.
Yeah, halfway through the movie, they're finally like exchanging names. They don't talk much during the day together, but at night, like when they're getting drunk together, that's where they open up a lot more to each other.
Yeah.
But not just in those moments like where they're opening up, where you learn a lot from them, but just in their own subtle movements, into like facial expressions. And the movie is really good at it, even though it's in black and white. It does a really good job at like showing actors performing in that nature, and it's just it's so great to see actors being able to act to this length of degree. There's a real great mystery story behind all this, and it's really subtle and it makes you think, and I just love having a movie that was able to do that for me.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, there's not much you can say about it. It's very much like a
palate cleanser.
I mean,
It's definitely a palate cleanser.
Like-
it scratches a specific itch.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
just like I knew it would.
I think it looks gross, but
It's disgusting.
It won't be everyone's cup of tea for sure,
Yeah.
but if there's any interest at all, I implore people to check it out and to try and show it.
well,
People need to show
Probably
this movie
better
more.
than Terminator.
yeah.
It
I
was
think-
I saw this after Terminator. Do you have any idea how nice it was to
It's
watch
like, oh,
this?
thank you. Good movies.
I literally the entire movie was like, oh, this is nice. Even though there's like
Poop on screen.
people are farting and poop. There's a lot of farts in this movie, but
So
it's
many farts.
it's tasteful farts,
Farts are just always great.
not like
They're
those
hilarious.
blockbuster farts that you see.
There's this great shot where like they're lying down, or like Willem Dafoe is about to go to bed in the morning because he takes the
Yeah.
night shift, and the camera's just like right on his belly on his bed, and Robert Pattinson's getting ready to go and do all of his duties for the day, and Willem Dafoe's like weirdly inflated, and then there's just this long drawn out fart, and you just see him like, oh, much better. And it's hilarious. Not enough movies have farts.
No.
It's a natural thing.
Or many
that
of them don't do it tastefully, like The Lighthouse does.
very,
That was-
very
sounded
tasteful
very
flatulence.
Well, I think that this rolls us into the next topic, which
Oh,
I
Tasteful
feel
farts?
that Lighthouse is the film that Martin Scorsese would consider cinema experience
Yeah.
in the true sense.
and Terminator Dark
Is-
Fate is not.
The roller coaster
the theme
ride of the
park.
theme park.
I think that's probably pretty simplified, but I think I agree.
Yeah. So some background: Martin Scorsese is out trying to promote The Irishman, his film with Netflix. He has been quoted a couple times now saying that Marvel films and franchise movies and basically modern studio releases are not true cinema, that they are about event experiences
Theme
and
park
not
rides.
and not about emotional journeys for the audience.
He has double, triple, quadruple, quintuple
Yeah.
down on this.
And that
Props to him.
And I think
I like that.
we really agree with him on that point. However, I think where he doesn't understand is that, and he very much mentions this just briefly in his New York Times essay, is that he says that it's theaters' fault because they just keep giving people the theme park
parks.
ride, and that it's not a supply and demand issue. But
Well, I guess we should clarify because
Yeah.
we've talked about this issue before because it's been going on for several weeks now.
Yep.
Excuse me. But the reason we're talking about it again is because Scorsese finally, we're assuming, was like, oh my God, these people still aren't getting it. So he sat his butt down and he wrote up an essay,
Probably on his typewriter.
and then the New York Times
I
published
imagine
it.
It was the typewriter.
And so it's Scorsese Unchained.
Right.
Is what it is.
it's black and white.
Unfiltered
He
thoughts.
put out his arguments.
And it's a good argument.
It
I think
is.
for the most part.
It was-
and
I
I
mean,
knew
it's
this was his
Scorsese,
point
it's
from the very
always
beginning.
well
You know, a
read.
lot of people didn't. You know, they just kind of reacted emotionally right when he said that because they're like, I like Marvel movies. He's
could you say
trashing my
that
favorite
against me?"
movies. It's like, no, it's not what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he could have been a little clearer.
And I was kind of thinking as I read the essay and I got to the paragraph where he talks about theaters just dishing this up to the public and it's kind of their fault. It's that I wonder if he in his mind when he thinks of theaters, he's not thinking of the mom and pa little town
No,
theaters.
there's no way.
He has to be thinking of the multiplexes because he says multiplexes and he goes, and then there's less and less independent theaters. And I'm like, well, that's not really true. There are a ton of independent theaters that 20% of all theatrical exhibition is independently owned. And that's a wide variety from single screen mom and pa's all the way up to multiplex chains. I mean, there are some smaller circuits that have huge multiplexes and that are thriving right now. So I think that when he thinks of current movie going, he is thinking of the top three, AMC, Regal, and Cinemark.
Yeah.
And yes, they are in line with the studios. They have just this very closely tied relationship with them, and they do just feed studio content really quickly. However, if you were to put it in the context of like the smaller independents, there are a lot of areas around in the country where this kind of cinema just doesn't work. Like, and it's not for lack of trying, because trust me, there are a lot of theaters out there that really want different content, that they are getting upset over Disney wanting 4 weeks for Star Wars on screen and are like, well, what else can I play? And so then they're trying to pick films like The Lighthouse and stuff, but that just doesn't work for
and that
some
shouldn't
areas.
come as a surprise. I worked in a video store for like 4 years. You get to learn the average person's taste or what they're looking for. I don't know. I don't think anybody should be surprised that, maybe even as much as like 7 or 8 out of 10 people, they're not the type of people that you're going to go like, dude, you should really check out The Lighthouse. I think you're going to like it. I feel like it's not controversial to say
to The Lighthouse
that, these types of movies are oftentimes a lot more like there's for a specific type of people.
Even Scorsese's movies himself, you would not take grandma
Scorsese's
to.
movies, there are some
kids.
of them. There are some of them that are pretty artsy, like Silence, for example. But a lot of his movies, they're really well done, but they're not what people think of as these like abstract, impenetrable, artsy movies. They're pretty conventional, they're really well made and they have things to say. Goodfellas isn't artsy in the same way that like The Lighthouse or like Tree of Life is.
Nor was it like a mega blockbuster, but it still did well enough business.
Oh yeah, it did a bunch.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a few things that aren't touched upon. There's this disconnect between what we think of as the major theater chains and actual independent exhibition. There's a disconnect right there with that. And then a lot of the criticisms lobbed at theaters should be lobbed at major chains, not the little guys. And however, all those criticisms need to also take into account that they don't always work for little guys either. No. But I think also is that there's just this fundamental shift in movie going behavior, and we've talked about it several times, that
more than several,
that creatives in the creative community, that exhibitors, that studio head chiefs, just everybody knows it's happened, but they don't quite know how to
they don't know why,
how to respond,
know how it specifically has changed, they don't know how to go forward. But everybody knows it's been going on for a while now. And
I feel like Scorsese in his essay, when he talked about no one's taking risks, so I'm like, well, moviegoers don't want to take risks, that the cost of going to the movies has gone up for a myriad of reasons. And not all
in a lot of
theaters.
ways it's not about the movies. It's not
and
about the actual movie, it's about
the behavior. It's about not wanting to spend $50 on a Lighthouse movie that you might walk away being like, that was a waste of my money, my hard-earned money. It's about the experience of making it last longer than 2 hours, or 3, or whatever it is. We've gotten to this streaming war where their series have taken over dominance, and people prefer a series that expands over time. And I just think that, movie going is becoming more an event like situation rather than something everybody just did on weekends. And so because of its event like quality now, you want to make sure you have invested in something that's easy to digest, something that you could take, say, kids and grandma to, because sometimes it will be a whole family event.
It just goes back to what we were saying, that it's not that theaters aren't an eventful experience. It's just that they themselves have to step up now that there's more competition. Like they used to always be considered events and always felt like events, despite them being like a every weekend type of thing. And we see that, and we've been seeing this with some of the clients that you have, Cody, that theaters are making an effort to try and change the game for how they show their movies, so that way they can feel like events again, despite having so much streaming competition and whatnot.
I've done art series and I've done upscale films in certain areas, and we've had to do them as like fall time art series and stuff. And people just don't come. It doesn't sell out an auditorium. And it's hard to take showtimes away from product that sells out an auditorium for stuff just because you're trying to give the audience something different. It's a hard decision to make, and you have to have a certain amount of community support and a certain amount of support coming in from somewhere else, because the theaters, it's butts and seats, and that product just doesn't put butts in seats as much as a Marvel film. And if a Marvel film can pay, the energy bill for the entire, that month, then you're gonna play that film. It's not like
Think of the
a
little
question
guys,
of
Scorsese.
taste.
Think of the little guys.
Well, I think not just Scorsese, but everyone in general is not thinking about the little guys. I think they're only thinking about one side of the whole industry when they're not thinking about.
Well,
the
and
theater
also, I
aspect
mean, a
of it.
lot of the film industry kind of lives in a bubble,
Oh, for sure. But it's just frustrating too, because
Yeah, I'm
it's
sure
just creating a
Scorsese's part of that
narrative
bubble.
that doesn't matter. It's creating the Marvel, or Scorsese doesn't like Marvel movies narrative, which that isn't important. It's the important narrative here is the theater part.
I feel like
Or at least part of
Scorsese
it is.
was talking about Marvel movies like McDonald's hamburgers. They're mass produced. You can get the same quality. It goes through all that. Doesn't mean though that you won't occasionally get a good burger out of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
And
Marvel
that-
movies are
and
good.
that people don't
You know,
prefer
they have-
it.
Yes, I've said this many, many, many
Yeah.
times. Other than a few that are not that good,
And there are some.
like
Yep.
90% of Marvel movies are completely fine, even great sometimes.
Every once in a while, you'll get
Yeah.
one with pickles on
I
it
know
and be like, "Oh, what is this?"
I like
Fine,
pickles.
if I got pickles.
I like
Yeah.
pickles.
Give it to me. Put
That's
it in
our
my mouth.
Winter Soldier.
Oh, that's our Winter Soldier.
You know what you're gonna get, and that's not bad. It's just, like I've been saying, it's just a convergence of there's way more options for people to do in their free time. So whereas going to the movie theater might be one of 3 things you could do, now it's like one of 10 things.
Right.
Naturally, just mathematically, less people are gonna go right off the
And
bat.
I made the point that in his article, a lot of the films he said he grew up with, that he had these long-term life experiences with, came out at a time where it was either the film or TV, or you went to Broadway. Like there was 3 options, and in a lot of places the only option was the theater, because TV was not good back then. But now you get these huge narrative world building things in video games. You get so many streaming series that build up over time and episodes and have world building in themselves. And so you just have options now that you just didn't have back then. And
I think a lot of this stuff is coming through. I mean, because a big thing that's like purely emotional, but you can't really write off is, these older, they're getting nostalgic. They're getting really nostalgic. Quentin Tarantino's last movie obviously was a huge nostalgic love letter to his favorite time. So much of the praise around The Irishman is, this is very much Martin Scorsese's kind of nostalgic, looking back, contemplating time type of movie. And, he's thinking about back when he was making cinema, when that was kind of the main visual art form. It's like, cinema touched me, and I've touched other people's lives. It was this beautiful, magical thing. And now the only thing that's different is cinema's not the only medium to get those types of experiences from.
Yeah, but it's hard to understand that.
And naturally, it's just kind of, it's not going away, but it's just joining everything else. It's not the focus.
Dispersed.
Yeah.
Dispersed.
Yeah, it's being assimilated into streaming, video games, web show, all of these other things. So maybe at first it doesn't seem as special because it's not the thing. What really is special is the fact that people love storytelling. There's just more ways to experience that now.
And I think maybe we're just entering an era where people want a little bit better storytelling.
Yes,
and that's
of course. People always want good
Yeah,
storytelling.
I mean, and we're seeing that with the reboots and stuff, that they're failing now, and sequelitis has set in because people just want new storytelling. Now,
Which Scorsese is,
so,
to a degree, right about that.
Yeah,
like
he
he
is
mentions
right.
that like at the start of his essay.
I don't have any.
And again, it's a very well done essay. Like the part we disagree on is
Again,
the point on the theater.
is the exhibition,
Yeah.
and it is a supply and demand issue, even though he thinks it's a chicken and the egg issue. And I'll always
it kind of
argue
is, but
that.
again, with independent theaters, they don't have the power or the influence to.
No, or then they can't afford
They're
to.
just gonna be like,
to take
I
risks.
I don't even really know what I'm doing. I'm just playing movies that are gonna make that people apparently want to see.
Exactly. Like when you have to hold Frozen for 3 weeks, I always tell my little guys, I'm like, I know it sucks. You're not going to do any business the 3rd week because literally everybody in town has seen it.
Yep.
But everybody in town has seen it. They've been to your theater. That doesn't happen every weekend. It might not even happen once a month. So when these movies come along, what you make in the first and second week far outweighs anything else, what happens in the third, because you finally got the bulk of people to come.
And these people that you're talking to, they're the ones that own like one screen or two screens.
Yeah, one screen, two screens, even like 3s and 4s, but they might be the only theater within a 40-mile radius.
Yeah.
These are remote, flyover country towns. So these are like what I think of growing up. Like we had a town with just one movie theater growing up. When I was really little, it only had 3 screens. Then it expanded to like a 5 or 6. Ooh, yeah.
Did it not go up to 8?
I think
Maybe
6.
it was 5 or 6. You'd know better than I would. I think.
Yeah, I
6
think it's
screens
6.
was like the one that I went to. I mean, there were 2 theaters in my town, but the one we went to a lot had 6 screens. It was a small little thing.
And I just remember I always liked theater number 1. It was the big one. I liked to sit in the back row and put the seat chair up and then sit on top of the seat while it was up so I could sit up higher.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those are like the experiences that I have that I cherish, that I can't wait to take my kids to the movie for an experience. I didn't grow up with a 15 or 30 megaplex, and so the whole, that's just so different and foreign to me. But I get that there's
Yeah, that's what
There's issues
that's what
there.
Scorsese is talking about. That's what most people think when they think of the theater industry.
Yep. They don't think of like that little 3-plex with a tiny concession stand. And
Every time this
Old
conversation or things related to this come up, I'm trying to think of like where it goes or where it leads to.
yeah,
Like what the solution is. But
you know what's gonna happen?
Start over. Burn it all
No,
down.
people, it's kind of interesting. I read this article about millennials, and everybody hates on millennials for killing certain industries, but millennials and younger people actually want more authentic experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's why you're seeing that play out to a certain extent in the theaters. That
well, they're already
Terminator-
pretty cynical,
Yeah.
jaded generations.
Well-
So when they see kind of a pretty corporate, crappy movie,
They're
going to
like,
see
no.
right through that.
Yeah. So, but they don't want the big multiplexes anymore. They want to go to the little and have the experience that like what I grew up with the little 3-plex, and they want to get back to that like community, that authentic experience, that it was more about going to the movie in this circumstance than it is like I've got to go see that movie. And I think that's where the luxury seating and the dining and all that add to the experience, and why we're seeing a shift to that. But I think what we're also
The
seeing
movies
is
themselves just got to catch up.
is like a shift to smaller screens. And I kind of think that that's where the industry's going, is that your smaller screen count will be supported much easier on your authentic experience than it will
Yeah.
with 15 or 20 screens and just that generic like get them in, get them out
Yeah.
mentality.
No, that makes sense. I don't know. I love it, but yeah, there's only time will tell.
Yeah. So it was just interesting, but we're always following that stuff going on in our industry, the commentary on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just love how all of it is really only about like the same 2 or 3 things.
It's about
rise of
behavior.
streaming.
Yeah.
Always.
Why are
comes
people
back
going to the
it.
movies anymore? And why are they only making sequels? You
Yeah.
know, those 3 things.
And even still, I felt like we've been on top of it before these discussions have been popping up
Oh,
more
yeah.
frequently. You know what I mean?
We're there at the
We've been
beginning.
ahead of the curve.
We've been
That's why we're
talking
here
about
for.
this forever. Forever. I think our first podcasts were talking about this.
And we were like, well,
much.
maybe that would be the only talking point
Yeah.
for that week, and then it
everybody
keeps
just-
continuing week after week.
If Martin Scorsese just listened to Off the Break podcast,
if we had a larger
he would have
audience-
been like, oh, there are like diehard cinemaphiles out there that want to see good films but want to see everybody succeed.
I think it would be
You make
awesome
a
if
good
you had
point.
like a 12 if you had 12 screen theater. It'd be awesome if, you're going to have to give people the blockbusters because that's a guaranteed moneymaker. It'd be cool if every theater had like a guaranteed minimum number of screens that are going to play quote unquote the other stuff.
Right.
That's kind of how it is if the movie like goes wide enough,
Yeah.
You'll get there's usually, even at our theater here, and we don't get a lot of the other stuff right away.
Right.
There's usually at least one or two of those types of movies playing at the theater.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
they come
you just have to
down the
look
road.
at the show times and be like, oh yeah, that is here.
I love how another thing is Scorsese talks about that the cinema doesn't play in movie theaters. Yeah, it's hard to play in movie theaters when you have a 500 print count.
Yeah.
That means 500 places out of the 5,000 theaters there are playing it. There's probably a small chance that nobody's really looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole studio end on prints and per screen average profitability and stuff that
It's a
come
lot
and
of
play into
business
this.
number crunching
Yeah, it's not
logistics
as
behind it,
easy.
Scorsese.
Yeah, it's not as
I'm
easy just to
sure-
say like, oh, they're cheap and
It's really easy to say
vetted.
this movie
People
is a
don't
beautiful
respect the
work.
art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
necessarily
easy to
that.
say this movie is a beautiful work of art and it deserves to be seen by as many people as possible. Yeah, of course, I believe you.
And then when you have to make
Does that mean it's gonna happen?
yeah,
No. Why?
2,000 drives, are
there's
you going
n-
to want to pay for that, Scorsese? No.
it's just like
oh, okay.
Getting upset about something you really want to be true isn't.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, sorry. I love it just as much as you, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people just don't care.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people that don't care or are not informed anymore. That's what's really surprising. Even some of the theater owners I talk about, they're like, "What's that movie?" I'm like, "This is your job. Like, this is your livelihood, and you know." And I get it's my job, and that's why I'm on top of it. But you don't know what's coming out this next couple weeks or what's available or
Just crazy.
yeah.
This is kind of like a tangent, but it's the information age and everybody has access to everything at all times. Everyone's always on their phone, but everything like these algorithms, you're on the internet, but you're only ever going to see, a certain few things, your own personal news feed, so like a lot of people's like, how did you not know that? I get, Avengers Endgame, everybody knew about
Right.
that. But I guarantee you there are probably a lot of people out there who are like, so this is going to be like a big movie? This is supposed to be one of the more
Do you
successful
think
ones?
that people even know about Frozen 2 because they see the Elsa and Anna dolls in the theater and the
Yeah, that's probably the
Target,
first
and
they've
they're
seen.
like,
Oh, they're making
"There's
another one?
Could be another one?
It's like, yes, of course. It's crazy. Yeah, so many people just, I'm amazed at how,
I bet if we
it
asked
seems like
peop-
most people don't know about a lot of this stuff.
No, I bet
Oh,
if we asked
yeah,
people on the
definitely.
street what day something comes out on, they would be like, I don't know.
Which of the new movies do you think, or have you, are you planning on seeing this
Uh-huh.
weekend? Wait, what's coming out?
Yeah, what movies?
There's movies this weekend?
It reminds me of when majority of the people watch the Oscars. They don't try to see like who's gonna be best director of foreign films. They're gonna be like, ooh, look at Scarlett Johansson's pretty dress.
Yeah.
Look at it's that type of thing. Which that's fine too, but it's
I'm not
you know,
dissing
it's-
that. It's
it's-
just people lead busy lives.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
it's not bad at all. It's just
kids, family,
the way it is.
finances. It just
Mm-hmm.
just more complicated today than ever before.
mhm.
I'm sure
That's
every
fine.
generation feels like that though.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of a, I get it.
I mean,
it's a
Scorsese's
personal issue
generation
to
probably
me.
feels like that.
Yeah.
It's a
So-
personal issue to me because I can see, movies are like the one of the biggest things in my my life in many ways
Right.
like revolves around them. I'm like, these are important.
Yeah.
How can you say that this doesn't like affect how you plan out your time?
Right.
It's like, what? But a lot of people are just like, yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, what do you want from me, man?
It's like, okay.
I know we're definitely a different breed of people.
I've
Like we're
spent-
not your average.
Oh,
I
person.
spent
for
a
sure.
long
Moviegoer.
time coming to terms with that because I
Yeah.
used to be really
Yeah.
bad about that. Like, I feel like most people kind of start out the same way when you start kind of getting more into it. Then all of a sudden you know more about it than other people. So then it's kind of like, no, you should listen to me. Yeah, everybody has their own opinions, but
Yeah.
mine are better.
Yeah, I've had those
I
moments
know
many
more.
times.
Yeah.
I've had those moments many
and then
times. these
and then
past few
eventually you're
weeks.
just like you bite your tongue. It's like, yeah, it's just kind of how it
I know.
is.
And then now you're in this whole different world.
Yeah,
and I feel so isolated and
it's
scared.
a melancholy feeling, but most people don't care about the things that are the most important to you.
I feel like that's how people used to be, or probably still are with sporting events. Like when they have their team and like their
I will
sport
never
that they
understand
know
that.
everything about.
No, that's definitely the case.
Yeah.
I
It
love the
absolutely
idea of
is.
sports so much. I think it's fascinating, but I will never watch a sports game ever.
Brutal.
A whole one sit
Yeah,
down to finish.
Like football, I think it's fascinating. It's like it's a game of wits between two guys that plays out with a bunch of disposable drones.
yeah.
But I'm never gonna watch a football game.
And the merits
love
of
that.
each strategy
I love that.
fall and depend on the abilities of those drones in those seconds to perform their duties as
They throw themselves at each other, give each other permanent brain damage, and it's all just at the end of they keep going back, and then the head guy's like, "Good job, now we'll do it again."
It's thrilling to see in real life. It is so much more fun in real life.
I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
If somebody's like, "Hey, we're going to a
Professional
football game," I'll be like, "Oh, okay. There's hot dogs and beer. Oh, okay. I'll probably have a great time."
Yeah.
But
baseball's the same way too. I actually like going
any
to
of those
real
sports
life
games are
baseball
cool.
games.
It's fascinating to see the competition, but I don't know how we got onto that.
Well, it's
just
comparing that type of mindset of us compared to the rest of the world with movies. It's the same way with sports.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it was anyway. But yeah, props to Scorsese though. I thought the article was very well said. Hopefully, the Marvel fanboys will calm down.
Back her down, Marvel
I'm
fanboys.
not gonna read this essay.
No,
Probably not.
No, they're not gonna.
well, they probably it was written in the New York Times. I'm like, that's not getting to any of the fans out there.
No,
Like, let's go put
that's
it in a
not on the
highbrow
Marvel fan
publication.
pages.
Gotta
No, sir.
Count down my calendar the days until the Eternals comes out, but first I gotta read my daily issue of the New York Times.
I forget that that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm just so over it. Like now
You've
that
I feel like you've said you're over it,
Well, now this is
and then
gonna
you
make
get
me
like
sad.
super hyped, and then you say you're over it, and then you get really
Yeah.
hyped so many times on just
That's
this
how they
podcast.
get
but
you,
I'm
Eric.
not.
Oh, I know.
But I'm not excited
know.
about Eternals at all.
I already have
Not
kind
yet.
of like.
Not yet.
I mean, that's how I am with Star Wars. I already kind of have like
that
an
was
addict.
absolutely.
I already have kind of
what
like an
it was.
addictive personality, but I see it with Star Wars, and it's like I hate you, but just
Give it to me.
But then I
Yes!
walked into the office and saw Eric at his desk, just oh yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can't help it. I can't.
I just had to laugh. I thought it was funny.
I have been having my son get into Star Wars, and now it's become an even more fun thing. We're gonna watch Episode 2, Attack of the Clones tonight.
No young boy can resist that bug.
No,
If you get it to them at the perfect time,
It's
got
made
'em.
Star Wars more fun for me now that I can share it with him.
get him that. Get him into Star Wars Legos. Get him into Star Wars video games. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be the best thing in his life.
getting
It's gonna be
Star
with him for
Wars
his entire life.
Legos for Christmas. He wanted the Lego Yoda,
Oh yeah,
but it's like $70, I think.
that's
Wait,
like
what?
nothing.
Is it like
Star
a-
Wars Legos get so expensive.
Really?
Which Yoda? Because there's
It's a
several Yodas.
whole
There's like a little statue
It's
Yoda.
made of
statue,
gold?
like this.
Mhm.
No,
Like, why
all
is it
just green
$70?
That was one of the first ever Legos Star Wars Lego sets. So maybe they like did a remastered version. They
Yeah,
do that with Legos.
I don't know. We just saw it. I saw it. He saw it in a little catalog, and he's like, "I want that." And I'm like,
One of my first.
"Oh, buddy, you
Yeah.
want it for like 2 seconds to make it, and then you want to tear all the Lego pieces off and build new things.
No,
That's a lot of money
you build
just
it,
for Lego
you break
pieces.
it apart so you can build it again over and over and over.
Pretty
and over.
much, you'd be
Doesn't
giving him
build
a
the same
$100
thing
bill,
again,
and
though.
he'll just
He will
rip
with
it
Star
in
Wars
front of you.
Legos.
He hasn't. He's had some Star Wars Legos. He hasn't.
But now he's into Star Wars.
I'm hoping.
Just be like, you
He
could
just-
probably just like
He actually
give the same thing to him. Be like, hey, this.
He just
Whoa!
makes his own ships. Like he just makes
Yeah, of
his
course.
own ships.
And now that he's into Star Wars, I guarantee he's gonna start making his own Star Wars ships.
Yeah.
because it's what you do.
Oh, he's already made blasters and
It's-
lightsabers.
Yes, that's what you do.
Theme parks.
It's real. It's theme parks, but I feel like it's enriched our life. Like
Yes.
it's something we get to share, and it's really fun, and it's healthy and happy, and there's good stories in it. And
Yes.
Same with Marvel.
redemption,
They're magical.
heroes. You know,
Same with Marvel.
Yes. I love just thinking about all of the people out there who are gonna like grow up and then have kids and share their love of Marvel movies and bond with their kids by watching these Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And then the kids are gonna be like, is this the one where they beat Thanos? It's like, no, that's in 15 more movies. And you're gonna be like, oh boy.
It's not the same as when it was like introducing Star Wars and be like, no, it's just
no,
one
that's in the
more.
next one.
Oh.
No, that's in 10 movies.
that's what's
that's-
happening with me and Callister right now. We're like, nobody, he's not Darth Vader yet, but this cute little boy will be Darth Vader. He's like, oh
5
no.
movies.
I can just imagine going, oh no.
Yeah. Is he bad?
Is he bad?
Yes, he's bad. So we had a couple trailers to wrap up this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Now that we got all that out of our system,
And we'll never talk about it again. God,
something
I hope.
I'm gonna skip around. Something super cute and happy that we can all agree on was the Soul trailer.
Yes,
Super
from
cute, super
Disney
happy.
Pixar.
I'm super excited. It's directed by Pete Docter. He did Up. He did Inside Out. 2 of the best Pixar movies out there. This one looks like it's going to be another existential heartstring tugger. What's the main guy in its name? I don't think they say it in the trailer.
I forget his name. He's voiced by Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx plays this guy who's, I think he's a middle school teacher, but on the side he plays, I think, like jazz music. So you kind of get the impression
like
that
freelance musician.
He's kind of a boring, sad dude who teaches, but his real passion's music, and maybe he just kind of lost track of it.
This man's name is Joe Gardner.
Joe Gardner, like that name. And then he falls into a manhole and
You
falls out of his body, literally, I think. And then he's just like a soul, just a disembodied soul floating around. He meets another soul, and
Voiced by Tina Fey.
And it's kind of like, what does it mean to? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy
to be?
And it's like, whew.
Can you make that happen?
Don't we all want to know?
It's gonna
Leave it
be
to
deep.
Pixar to tell us.
It's gonna be deep. There's gonna be tears.
Eventually, Pixar will answer the meaning of life objectively.
Oh yeah,
They will figure it out,
They'll
and
figure
they'll
it
tell
out.
it to us, and it'll probably be like, I don't know, what's a cute little thing that they could personify and move us to tears with.
They already did a fork.
looking at
I'm
it.
trying
You
to
know,
think.
Pixar, they've done everything.
They did a lamp.
They've done everything.
a towel. No, I think they already did a towel too.
Pixar will make up something new, and it'll answer life for all of us.
I almost said a Buzz Lightyear, but that's them.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a teaser trailer, so
A
there's not a whole lot
toy.
there. As they tend to do, they just kind of show you what the character looks like, and give you a little tease of what the hook is.
They do
This-
teasers so well.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Like the last
They're the
couple of
best at
movies,
it.
they've nailed like the teaser trailer. Because normally in the past couple of years, it's like, here's the teaser trailer, but it's 5 minutes long, and it's like that's the whole movie, buddy.
The
But
Titanic trailer is like 7 or 8 minutes long.
is it?
Yeah, it's long.
I did not know
Weird.
that. That is crazy to me.
But yeah, I'm sold on Soul.
Yeah, I just am nervous about character designs, kind of, because they do remind me of Inside Out. But
It's
I have
like they took the Inside Out wireframes and they're like, let's just put a different face on it.
right, but
I'm like,
I
don't think
do
so.
have trust in Pixar always. I mean, I said this about the Onward trailer. Like, it might seem weird, it might seem unorthodox, but it's Pixar, and they know how to tell a story. So
Yes, they do.
I'll see how it goes when I see it. But I'm pretty sold.
And it's Pete
on this,
Docter. I mean,
too.
Inside Out might be, along with the Toy Story, is like my favorite Pixar movie.
Yeah, it's probably
so
my top 5 too.
This is kind of in that same ballpark of like really out there, kind of existential. What are we, and what is the point of?
It might be their most existential, by the way. It's
Yeah.
looking. I mean, there was that scene where like the soul of Joe is like, "Hello, who's out there?" And it's like these steps, but you don't know where they lead, and it's like this black abyss, but it's gorgeous, and I don't know, man. Maybe they'll
What
tell
meaning
us the
is
meaning
there
of
in
life.
the void?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll tell us. Maybe this is the
Oh,
movie.
they will, and I'm gonna cry.
Oh, there
Well,
will be tears.
The next trailer that we
Well,
saw.
wait, what about
did
your
make,
thoughts?
Make me cry.
She thought it was cute
I
and
thought it was
happy and
cute
adorable.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, the next trailer also made me want to cry too, but
No.
for different reasons than Cody.
I was like, oh, this is torture watching this.
So the movie is Wendy.
From Fox Searchlight.
Yep, it's from the director of Beasts of the Southern Wild, which was now I think 7 years ago. So he's taken some time in between his movies, but it's kind of like a twist on the Peter Pan story. I think Peter's like a younger brother, and Wendy is kind of the focus.
It's in the title.
I
I'm
thought,
not brother. I'm getting this
yeah.
confused with Gretel and Hansel, but
Oh,
Wendy's the focus in this one.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
and Peter is another little boy on the and the trailer shows these kids jumping on a train and going to an island where they're free and wild, like
Where
lost
wild
boys.
things are.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. And again, it's a teaser. It's more of just like a
Right.
tone establisher.
yeah.
It's like a bunch of kids
Yeah.
living in the wild,
Oh,
never
I wa-
having to grow up.
I watched that trailer and I was like, this is horrible. This is like torture for me to watch this. I worried about those kids. I'm like, where are their mommies? I had so many thoughts running through my head. I go out and I'm like, Eric will probably like this movie.
Yeah, it was a gorgeous trailer. It was shot beautifully.
Heartless.
The music was, I loved it. I loved the melody. I loved the voiceover. I thought it was poetic.
She missed her mommy because mommies need to be there.
Yeah, but they can't always be there.
At least she told her mom that she's okay. There's
trying
a
to
part
help
in the
you learn
trailer
this
where she's
lesson.
talking to the seashell and goes, "I'm okay, mom." And
trying
then
to help you
think
learn
she
this
wants
lesson,
to fly.
Cody.
I don't know.
She's got to be like 6 years old. She doesn't know if she's okay or not.
She seemed pretty confident.
She's
It'll
got
be
friends.
fine. It'll
got
be
friends.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, pirates take them in the teaser, but they'll be
My
fine.
child cries when he has to come in, even though his cheeks are like nearly frostbite. I'm like, they don't know when they're okay. That's why they need mommies.
She seems to be very independent.
She talks to her mommy through the shell in one of the most beautiful
I
moments
really
of the
don't see what
trailer.
the problem is. I think they're safe.
With the bad men
I think
dragging
it's aware.
one of
I think
them
it's aware the
away.
By the
wild things
hair?
are a
Yeah,
type
they're
of
fine.
metaphor, and I love metaphors because metaphors are
Cody's
beautiful.
like,
It so
I
stresses me out.
hate you guys.
It's not literal.
Horrible. This is like, it
Now-
is literally children being drug away on the beach and separated and probably trying
it's
to be
not.
kidnapped
I mean, maybe
We
it
don't-
is.
we don't
but
know.
by
It might not
grown nasty
probably
men.
is.
be. Those men were grown.
And they were nasty. It was scary.
They did. Those do look
Well,
like
I think it
some
looks
scary
good.
dudes.
I'm excited.
It's very artsy.
Everything about it just ticked the right boxes. It's on my to see list. I am officially excited.
I do wonder how well it'll play because
Not
I don't
well
think
at all.
I don't think it's going to be a wide release,
That's a
nor do I
turd
think
in
it'll
the
be.
making.
No, that's a beautiful movie.
I do wonder if it'll catch people's attention, even if it will be
No.
as limited as it will be.
Yeah. So they're like, not my kid. I'm not seeing that.
Oh, it's probably the case.
I'm gonna have a kid and take him to that.
you're gonna
We're gonna make a kid in 3 months.
Whatever. You have a kid. You will be bawling your eyes out like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
My kid stays with me.
Your kid's gonna be bored. Do we want to talk about the Invisible Man
I will
trailer?
make
Oh, yeah.
my kids like good movies, no matter what.
Make them, because that always works out.
Uh,
Making them do something they may not want to do.
if I ever have kids, that's gonna be the hardest part of my entire life, is having to accept that they're just not gonna like some of the things that I love.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, they're gonna
it's gonna
and
be
that
so
they're gonna
sad.
personality-wise be so different from you.
They could be super different, but as long as they still like a certain handful of like movies or like albums, then I'll be like, you're a good person.
Usually, as a parent, what I've found is if I really love something, my kid tries to like it. It doesn't mean that they have to, and I'd never force it on them. Like Star Wars, I was like, Mommy really likes Star Wars. Do you want to watch it with me? And then it's kind of snowballed from there. But I've tried to watch Avengers and stuff with him, and he's just not been interested. So
You gotta force more love.
you just got to give them opportunities to experience the things you like and try to hopefully
Go back again in
make
the
it-
future,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, go back.
And then when they get more independent, and when they move away, and when mommy's not around,
They'll
they
watch
might,
Marvel movies.
They might go back and discover these old
Yeah.
things that you tried to show them, and then they'll be like, "Mom, I was so wrong. I'm so sorry. As
I
a
wanna
kid, I
come
didn't like it. I want to come home and I want to be with you and watch these movies with you."
And they'll say that in the seashell.
Yes.
It's
And then
metaphors.
And then it'll be years in the future, and then you guys will decide to watch Wendy, and it'll
I've
move you to
never-
tears, and it'll
I've
become
never
your favorite
watching this
movie ever.
No, I never liked Peter Pan, so I can't like it.
This is Wendy, not Peter Pan.
well,
It's completely different.
Wendy should know better.
It's
Well,
completely
kids don't know
different.
better. You just said that.
I know, but little girls should. Little boys don't know better.
That's probably true.
That's so sexist. I shouldn't say that. So gender conforming.
Ugh,
Ugh.
that was disgusting.
To be honest, my oldest son though would be like, "No, guys, this isn't right." It would not leave.
He'd
the
be the
house.
one like that's standing next to Train, being like, "Come back."
I'd be like, "You're gonna be in trouble."
What's that kid in Good Boy? Was that Lucas? Lewis?
Did you know their names?
Yeah.
Yeah, Max is the main kid, isn't he?
Wait,
I don't remember
in
their
Wendy.
names.
No, in Good
I'm
Boys,
talking about the black kid.
the black kid, where he
Oh.
liked being part of.
He's like the mama's boy, super
anti-bullying.
responsible, sensitive, always do
Yeah,
the right thing.
That's my baby.
That's
Oh,
her kid.
I don't.
That was my favorite character in that movie.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's probably my favorite too.
Yeah.
Did you say something about the Invisible Man trailer?
Yes.
Yeah, I said, do we want to talk about it? And then you guys talked about Wendy again.
No, we should mention that it's not the Dark Universe.
Yeah, it's not
Johnny
the Johnny
Depp.
Depp one.
That's gone. Don't worry, it's
That's
Was this
not-
already in development when that was? Was there a
No, I
point in time
kinda
where there were
feel
going to
like
be two
this-
Invisible Man movies?
no, it changed after they canceled it all.
I'm pretty sure that this is the Invisible Man movie.
It doesn't seem that long
that they
afterwards.
changed.
Well, The Mummy came out 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's sad I remember
I
that,
ain't
but
gonna
it's
keep
true.
up with that stuff. I don't care about that.
But
But-
anyway, it's not connected.
It's under
To my
Blumhouse now,
knowledge.
Universal.
And Elizabeth Moss.
Elizabeth
right?
Moss is the main person. The Invisible Man is invisible, so I don't
It's
know
a
who plays him.
domestic
It's a guy
violence,
from-
abuse.
Yeah, it looks like a stalker thriller movie, but the
Yeah.
stalker is the Invisible Man.
Yeah, which that at least is a nice twist.
He fakes his death. He finds technology to go invisible just so he can torture and abuse Elizabeth Moss's
Now
character.
that part worries me.
Just kind of messed up.
They show in the trailer like he might have made a machine to turn him invisible. That part is weird to me.
Yeah, it seems a little.
I liked everything up
Mad
until they
scientist-y.
show. Yeah, I hope that there's like something else on top of that. My
Just
guess
should-
is probably not.
Don't even explain it. Just say one day he became invisible. That's all you
Just
need.
say he died and he just
All you
came
need.
back invisible.
One day he just disappeared. I don't know where he went, and he comes back and he's invisible.
Yeah,
But we
but
don't
then
know
at
why
the end
because
he's
it
gonna be
doesn't
like,
matter.
"Aha! I made myself in." Like, don't do that.
If there's a part where
That's
they're like,
what worries me
like he's
here.
only invisible because he uses these like invisible cartridges and they only last for like a few hours. So then at the end of the movie, they're gonna be like, we have to intercept him right at the moment where he's trying to swap out invisible cartridges, and then we'll be able to see him and then we'll defeat him. If there's
Now-
stuff like that, that would
Well,
be stupid.
What's
Yeah,
gonna
that's what
happen
I'm worried
is that no
about.
one's gonna believe her because there's that whole thing about her going insane as
Oh,
part
yeah.
of like this will to get money from the abusive ex-boyfriend.
But that part's cool.
That part's kind of cool. But then everybody that doesn't believe her in the
they're
trailer
gonna get
gets
killed.
beat up and killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna
So-
get killed one by one. She's gonna go even more crazy.
and it's gonna make it look like she did it.
But that's what I like that they were showing in the trailer. They were showing her, like, thinking that her abusive dead husband is coming back invisible to hunt her. But maybe, like, at the end of the movie, it turns out, like, there was no one like that. Or maybe it was just her and she went nuts.
Even if it's
But then towards the end of the trailer, when it's like, but he made an evil machine. I'm like, oh, now you
I'm right with you there.
like that.
And just because something is
yeah.
predictable doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. There's only so many stories and ways to
Right.
tell them. So
It just
by
makes me
all,
nervous.
for all I know, it could be a really, really good Blumhouse
What
thriller.
happens if she kills him and he's still invisible? Then no one would believe her that
Be
he
like,
was
come over
there.
here and just feel.
and then
Just
she
feel
would.
this body.
And then I think that's still a cool concept, though.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. But if there's a part where he's, there's a scene where he sits in this chair, pulls a lever and touches some buttons, and then you hear like a.
And now you're invisible.
Yeah, she's like,
shoots her with a
I'm
ray
gonna have to
gun.
go invisible too.
Yeah, and then they're in the invisible dimension. We just wrote a movie.
We just wrote a Marvel movie.
Yeah, we did.
We just wrote the Invisible Man, which I'm hoping that's not the case.
But, yeah.
But anyway, it's Blumhouse though. Like they're pretty good when it comes to
Pretty good.
making these horror thriller types of movies. I think this will still play well.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not going to see it. I don't do horror.
Probably won't see it either.
Don't like the domestic abuse aspect of it.
Fine, I'll take one for
It's
the
a
team and go
little-
see it.
That's a little palate-y, like yucky for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Not
I'm
for
trying to think of
everyone.
things I don't like seeing in movies.
As long as it's tasteful and it's a well done story,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
that's
fine.
what I'm saying. Like, because a lot of people, there are some things where it's just like, if that, like killing a kid in the first 15
I can't.
minutes, Cody
No.
doesn't
Like
like
it's
it.
off limits.
I mean, I'm not gonna say
things
that-
of like
I'm not-
abuse
yeah, I'm-
and whatnot. That's off limits for people, which
But-
is all fair. But
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that immediately I'm gonna write off. Be like, no.
yeah,
Because of that, I'm out.
because of that, I'm out. Shark Tank.
I don't know. I guess that's pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Should we talk about what's coming up?
Yeah, what are
this
we got?
weekend?
Doctor Sleep,
And Last Christmas.
Last Christmas,
There's
Midway.
Paramount's Playing with Fire.
Midway, and Playing with Fire. Yep, I knew there were 4 of them.
So I don't know what's gonna happen this weekend.
Dr. Sleep.
Doctor Sleep will probably take number 1.
Yeah, they're thinking that it'll be probably number 1.
Okay.
Close second would probably be Last Christmas.
Yeah, that's kinda
Midway
what I
and
thought.
Playing with Fire. Midway has a smaller print count, so I don't think it'll generate as much. And
No,
Playing with Fire went wider, but it's just so,
I think it looks really, really bad,
yeah.
and in the way that's like obvious to people. Like parents are gonna see the trailer and be like,
Oh, I don't want to
No.
watch this.
I really hope
Not
my
even
kid doesn't
this.
want me to go to this with them.
Yeah.
Maybe the kids will laugh. Is there like a joke? Isn't there like a pee joke or something?
There's-
Of course
There's a
there
poop
is.
joke.
Oh yeah, kids will laugh at that in the trailer, but I don't.
My
think
son
kids are
already
gonna
laughed
care.
at that.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh, you
Where
have no taste.
They laughed so hard when the guys were
class.
like gagging, and they're like, "Huh!"
Yeah, see, that stuff's
They
fun.
laughed so hard.
Wonder where they got that from.
The first time you see that, it's always gonna be funny.
Yeah,
Yep.
farts are always funny.
I guarantee you, that's the funniest part of the movie.
They probably
Probably.
will be. Do you think theaters can still play Terminator quite a bit, despite it
Well, they
not
have
performing
to.
well.
they don't
Yeah,
have a
it'll
choice.
drop down
Yeah.
probably like 3, maybe 4.
Yeah,
Probably 3.
third or fourth spot, you mean?
Yeah.
Of like the
My
box
prediction
office.
I think
was
it'll
Dr.
be number
Sleep,
5 or 6.
Last Christmas,
dropped down that much.
Terminator,
Huh.
Midway, Playing with Fire.
Because I think
I mean, Joker could. People still want to see Joker.
Oh, I forgot about
so
Joker.
that's
Joker,
still-
yeah, Joker's holding.
Joker-
it.
Joker's still
Maleficent,
strong.
maybe people still might want to see that. I'm not
No.
quite sure.
I think what's going to happen is you've got too many rated R's in the market. You've got Dr. Sleep as R, Terminator's R, and Joker's still strong at an R. And Joker's becoming an event. Like, people need
Yeah.
to see it, so that's why it's holding on.
By the
But-
way, Terminator being R is a joke. It's not. There's like F bombs and
That's
like
why-
barely any blood, but
Yeah, the first one's brutal movie.
yeah.
Oh my
and
God.
calling this R is just laughable. It's, anyway, keep going. I'm sorry.
So I think that, Terminator's not going to hold up given the audience entries that it's being
Yeah.
culled from.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause-
And I think now that people have seen it, I think it's having a pretty negative word of mouth.
yeah, that never helps.
I mean, like critical reviews, it's pretty average. Whatever, nothing great, nothing bad. But once people start talking about it, I do think that John Connor thing's gonna not sit well with a lot of people.
I think people might be tricked by like overall ratings. Like on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's at like 70%, and I think people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, that means everyone does love it, and that it is as great as
best
the second
Terminator
one."
since
When
Terminator
if
2.
you look deeper, they're really just being like, it's fine." But,
Right.
I think people might get.
Well, that always happens with Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, yeah, it always happens, but I think
That's why you
especially
shouldn't go
here,
off
that's
scores.
the case.
yeah, a review could be like, "This movie is overly long, it's boring, the story doesn't really make sense, but you can't deny that it's fun to see Linda Hamilton back." And then Rotten Tomatoes will be like, "That's a fresh review."
Yeah, and you're just like, what?
51 out of 100.
It's a good
Positive.
it's a good resource to have, but it's also such an annoying resource to have.
It is annoying.
Yeah, but
All
people
right.
use it, and that's whatever.
Cool. Kyle, take us out.
All right. No, I'm kidding. So everyone, yes, thank you again for listening to Off the Break Pod. What are you doing there?
I was
Eric
seeing
got
if that
to
was like a present that was wrapped
No,
up.
it was the door. It was the Halloween door
Oh.
decorations.
I thought it was a present.
Eric's poking everything.
Well, if people have gone this far into listening to us, thank you very much.
I'm an inquisitive person.
The podcast is always available on all podcast networks except for Spotify, I believe.
We're
getting-
going to get on Spotify.
We're trying to
Don't
get
worry.
on Spotify soon, so that's about to happen. But we're also up on our own website at silverscreeninsider.com, where if you're a theater owner or manager, you can use it as a resource tool for all of your upcoming movie knowledge and marketing information that you might require.
Check us out.
Have a good weekend.
Take it easy.